Two of my favorite fighters, Israel Adesanya and Canelo Alvarez, share quite a few things in common. The reigning champions.
Israel Adesanya, the seemingly unbeatable champ. He's lapping the competition. He's beating everybody. Yeah, he is the dominant force at 185. One of the biggest stars in the UFC that we have today.
Canelo Alvarez is not just the king of 168 pounds. He might be the king of all of boxing.
In which he's the first undisputed champion at super middleweight in boxing history and the first Mexican-born fighter to become an undisputed champion.
High fight IQs.
I mean, for him to be able to operate at such close range and not get hit, not waste punches.
The thing about Canelo is so interesting to me is that Canelo's a big puncher, but he's also really skillful defensively. That's usually not the case.
And he's very athletic, very light-footed, very quick with his hands. Like a young Roy Jones, he does things different. You know, a difficult style, unorthodox, can create it as he's doing it, make it up as he's doing it, and come at you with all kinds of things. He can improvise really well.
Disciplined and dedicated lifestyles, even when they don't have a fight scheduled.
He's a guy who already had big power, but he's constantly working and developing that power.
If I'm not a Canelo fan now, I'm a hater. Yeah. But I am a fan now because I really appreciate his work ethic.
The one attribute they're both known for is their marksmanship. They're both snipers, both sharpshooters. It's the one trait they share that also occasionally works against them. The mindset of these snipers is they don't strike unless they see the opening and the exit. Their mental makeup is one of extreme patience and intelligence. Their shot selection is usually the shot that offers the best reward with the minimum amount of risk. So basically, a low-risk, high-reward mindset. This is why they hit and don't get hit in return and make it look so effortless.
You see Canelo, like when he fought Danny Jacobs. Well, the Danny Jacobs fight, remember his head movement?
Yep.
It
gave Danny problems.
We give anybody problems, but it was also like he was showing his head movement in that fight.
Get the fuck out of here, man. Fuck out of here, man.
It's because everything was pre-planned.
Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
This is just the most sophisticated of the strikers.
I'm gonna take my time.
They study you.
If you watch striking, if you're a person who likes striking and you like setups and stuff, what he's doing something very different.
Make calculations.
I'm gonna be in my zone.
Because he's getting guys to move a certain way. He's reading you.
Think in probabilities.
I'm gonna get the reaction I want to get from him.
Like you see when Izzy's moving around, he's reading you.
Yeah.
He's seeing if he can come forward with the right hand. He's seeing if you're looking at that right hand, he kicks your leg.
Calculate, get the reads I need to get.
He's gonna move out of the range of your power.
It's like he's thinking in 4D or something.
He's downloading all your data.
See what their game plan is.
And he can see like weaknesses in people.
And what his reactions are.
Canelo has ridiculous power, but his timing was perfect. He caught Billy Joe leaning down, and he uppercutted him as he was leaning down. So it's the force of the lean down, along with the force of the uppercut, and his face just exploded. His orbital was shattered. His cheekbones were shattered. I think the way the cheekbone connects to the upper jaw was cracked.
Wow.
One punch, look at that. And Canelo crushed his face.
Yeah.
The whole face got fucking caved in.
God, that's power.
It was also perfect timing.
And they do it while taking the minimum amount of damage. The only issue with this approach is they occasionally have a tendency to throw only single shots. Not only that, but while they're studying you and or looking for their opening, they spend a lot of time staring and feinting and at times pressuring, but not exactly hitting. The patience of Canelo and Izzy has caused them to have some close fights. Fights that some thought they should have lost. I've seen the close fights of Adesanya and Alvarez. With some of their close bouts, I thought they clearly won, and with others, I could see why people thought they should have lost.
Let's start with a very basic framing of the question, and then let's build out from there. First things first, how did you score the main event between Israel Adesanya and Robert Whittaker at UFC 271?
3 rounds to 2 in favor of Robert Whittaker.
I ended up scoring it 3-2 for Robert Whittaker, but this fight, it was really up for grabs in anyone's fight because this was the ultimate chess match.
You've always said it that you thought Triple G won them both. For the first fight, he 100% won. It's hard for anyone to make a case for Canelo. I don't have necessarily a problem with the second fight as much. I thought it was maybe a draw, but I thought
he won both.
In my observation, both Izzy and Canelo could have made their close fights much more clearer wins had they just attacked more instead of attempting to set up the perfect shot. Fighters who have a low output always run the risk of being outworked.
Kind of guy that can be outworked. He's a conservative guy, he's a sharpshooter.
Some fight fans, and most importantly judges, will give the round to the fighter who throws more instead of the fighter who lands the more meaningful, damaging punches.
Landing clean shots like to the body, he was picking the spots, he was countering with right hands. He was being what he is, a counterpuncher, a conservative guy, a sharpshooter, and you gotta have the right judges. You gotta have the right judges to appreciate it, to see that.
This results in Izzy and Canelo being a bit too trustworthy of the judges, too trusting in assuming the judges actually know what they're watching, too dependent on the judges to put more value on their superior accuracy instead of their opponent's sloppier but more aggressive approach.
Because he's not a real active guy. He's the kind of guy that can be outworked. He's the kind of guy that can be out-hustled. He's the kind of guy you can steal rounds. And it was evident again.
This approach also hurt both of them when they moved up in weight. As they fought naturally bigger men, those single shots they threw didn't drop their opponents like in the lower weight classes. In Canelo's case, he was lost when his shots didn't affect the larger champion in Bivol.
Because he was looking for just power punches. And the problem with looking for power, if you don't land them, you're behind in the scorecards, number one. Canelo gets carried away on the ropes with his defense, Ken. He gets intoxicated by showing off, making you miss, slip, and he does it pretty good, making you miss, slipping, dipping.
Yeah, unfortunately for Canelo, when he tried to do it, Bivol punched his head a bunch of times.
It's an opportunity that other people didn't take advantage of, where you go against the ropes and you go defensive for no reason other than to go defensive. You're allowing your opponent a moment to get his hands off, knowing nothing's coming back for that particular moment. Knowing that he's just showing off his defense, whatever you want to call it. He's just making you miss, but he's not looking to throw back. And a lot of guys don't take advantage of that. Bivol took advantage. That's a moment to get ahead in the scorecards. That's a moment to really have a big round.
In Izzy's case, he knew single shots wouldn't drop Blachowicz, so he attempted to get more aggressive, and by doing this, he got himself into compromising positions.
I talked to Jan before that fight. Like, he cuts about 17 to 20 pounds to make it to that weight. He has the speed advantage, which he did. His feints were working. But then with that speed advantage, even if the feints are working and you're landing here and there, you can't commit to the nasty combinations that you do on somebody your size, because if one of Jan Blachowicz punches gets through, there's a good possibility you just go to sleep. And Jan hit him enough with significant strikes for him to feel like, okay, I have to respect this man's power and size. And that's what Jan did well and right. He made him pay just enough to where Adesanya couldn't come in the way he really wanted to. Jan beat him with landing the right punches at the right time. Now he's not throwing like crazy combinations. It's not as tricky. I did think that Adesanya was going to get off more combinations and maybe get ahead on the numbers a little bit more. But like I said, Jan did the right thing. You know, he connected at the right times and like kind of rocked him and said, okay, I can't go too crazy because I'll get knocked out in here. And I think that's what changed the fight.
The very approach that ascended them to their crown is also the approach that is their Achilles heel.
Your strength can be your weakness can be your strength, and you have to be aware. And if you're aware that it's a strength, and if you're aware that it can also be a weakness, and if you're aware that it's a weakness and you're aware that it can also be a strength, then you can probably optimize the way that you're going to think, which is pretty beneficial.